Woo. Okay, hello to all of the friends. How are you? Happy May. I hope you're doing well. I am here for the May book club discussion where we read When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy, and I am joined by you guys have the different editions.
Me and Steph twin. We're twinning.
Cool. I actually like, oh my god, that like red behind.
Like
Yeah.
And
That's
can you
really
see
cool.
this? Can you see the silhouette as well?
Oh,
Which
I
is
can.
probably a spoiler. So probably a spoiler.
Yeah, what the heck? Spoilers on the cover? Are you kidding me?
Mhm.
That's cool. I actually really like. Can you see that there's a wolf right here? Like, it took me so long to know that this is
hang
a
on.
wolf's face.
I have seen that cover before, firstly. I don't know if I saw the wolf on there, but I haven't seen the multiple spoiler with the face, the multiple eye.
I never noticed that was a wolf on the cover for so long. Like, embarrassing.
I do love that cover.
Yeah, me too. Great cover. Great. I don't think this book has a bad cover. Like all the different versions I've seen, I'm like, yeah, this actually has a pretty good cover. And also, can I just say as well? I had no idea Nat Cassidy was a man.
Yeah, you and everyone else.
Yeah, it's literally like Riley Sager. I literally thought, I had no idea this was a man.
Right. I know I had a discussion about this on my Patreon live stream recently because I was like, everybody was like, wait, Nat Cassidy's a man? And I was like, yeah, like I know Nat could be short for like Natalie or like Nathaniel or like, I feel like it's kind of a...
Or Natasha.
Yeah, I think maybe Cassidy is the name that sounds maybe a little bit more feminine, like throws people off. I don't know. That is interesting though, because a lot of people, like I heard that from a lot of people.
I think it might also just be wishful thinking. Like I don't want to read books by men.
Yeah. Honestly, fair. That's very fair. But hello, everybody. I see Greta didn't know. So funny. Anyways, so yeah, we read When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy, which was a wild experience. This is a new horror book that just came out pretty recently. I'm joined by Gavin and Steph. If you both wouldn't mind just kind of like introducing yourselves. Both of their channels are linked down below, by the way, if you're unfamiliar for whatever reason. But both of these two make some bookish content for the internet. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of like introducing yourself, talk about your channel, what you do, what you read.
Well, I am Gavin from Gavin Reads It All, and I do try to read it all, but there are some things that do slip through the cracks. Like I don't think I've tackled a whole lot of nonfiction, for instance, but I would like to delve into a bit more. But I do try and read a bit of everything. I love to do a bit of vlogging. I think vlogging is my favorite thing, more so than anything else.
Yeah.
And this is my fourth book troop. So that's pretty exciting. And we haven't had a great track record.
Yeah, there's a bit of suspense here because Kevin's like hated and shot on like every single one that I brought him on for. So
the very first one, The Children on the Hill, I did like.
Oh, you did like that one.
I did like it, but it didn't like blow me away or anything. But then the second and third ones were like genuine loathing, like loathing, unadulterated loathing.
Right. So, I see.
So yeah, we'll find out later.
Fingers crossed.
Of this one.
I see.
And I am Steph from the channel Steph Loves, and I hate to talk about myself, so this is
Liar. You love it.
Yes.
I tend to read across the board as well. I am very much so out of my epic fantasy era at the moment and very much in my romance era, but horror and thrillers are coming in very fast and very rapid, and I am living my best life. And this is my first time on Book Troop, and I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you for being here.
We love a Book Troop virgin.
Yes, I'll make a t-shirt just for that, Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for being here. And thank you so much to everybody already joining us for this chat. I would love to know if you did read along with us this month. Maybe you can put a little wolf emoji in the chat if you did read the book, because that would be cool. And then maybe if you haven't read the book or if you DNF'd and if you're just here to hang out, maybe you can just put a red heart in the chat, maybe just so I can get a visual. And while they're doing that, would one of you mind pitching like a non-spoilery synopsis for anybody who like hasn't read the book yet and is just here for the vibes?
Steph, do you want to do it or do you want me to? I'll let
you go for it, Gavin.
No pressure.
Wow, okay. So actually, I can't even remember if I've ever done this. Honestly, I feel like I've always delegated it to like whoever else was in the live show. So
Yeah, so this
to
will
be
be a
fair,
first.
I think so. I think so. So this book, well, actually, judging from what it starts out with, you wouldn't really expect the turns it takes. So I'll not exactly say where it goes after the initial premise, but we initially start with following Jess, who is a struggling actress. She works in a Gabby thinks of Popeyes, which is
Okay, literally, I was only listening on audio at that point. I was like, it literally said Popeyes, I swear.
Mm-hmm.
But it
Okay,
wasn't.
Poppies.
Popeyes.
She works at Poppies, not Popeyes. And yeah, so she has a really bad experience and has to go home. And she ends up coming across this young boy, and the young boy is terrified of something that's coming after him.
Mhm.
And it doesn't take any time at all for us to find out what it is that's coming for them. And it's he's scared of so many things. He's scared he's going to get caught by his dad, but there is this awful wolf, and it's thirsty for blood. So now Jess has to look after this little boy that she has only just met, this 5-year-old boy without a name. So, or at least not yet anyway. Yeah, that's the initial setup.
Yeah, that was good because I was like thinking to myself, I was like, how do you even pitch this book really, without like spoiling anything? I feel like this one actually is kind of difficult because I feel like the synopsis for this one is kind of vague. And I feel like everything that happens in the synopsis of the book happens in like the first 30-ish to 50-ish pages, and then you're just like, what? So so that was fantastic. Thank you so much. All right. And then so everyone, if you wouldn't mind putting your ratings in the chat, I'm so curious to see how everybody's going to be rating this one. I actually don't know how either of you felt about this, so I'm excited and nervous. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind everybody putting your ratings in the chat, I'm very happy overall with this one because it seems like from what I've been seeing on Discord and everything that so many people are saying that this is their favorite book that they've read this year. So many people are giving this book 5 stars. I've seen a lot of positivity, which makes my heart so happy, of course, because I always want to be having people pick up books that they're enjoying. Like that would be really cool. It doesn't always happen for the book club, that's for sure. But yeah, so if you wouldn't mind kicking us off, Gavin, do you want to let us know your rating? The suspense.
So, right, well, let me just go through. So the very first one I did, Children on the Hill, I think I gave like 3 stars, maybe 3.5. And then I gave How to Sell a Haunted House like 1 or 2 stars. Gave Murder Road 1 star. One of the worst books I read ever.
Right.
So for When the Wolf Comes Home, I gave a 4 star. I gave it a 4 star. I actually really liked it. I really liked it.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll take it.
You should take it because it's sold again.
And like, and like brief non-spoilery, why was it 4 stars?
Okay, so 4 stars for me. There were a couple of times when I had to suspend my disbelief, which I do want to go more in depth with that later on, because I feel like with this kind of story, that is just a given. But there are a couple of times when I think some of the logic slips for me, so that it doesn't quite make sense in a couple of parts. But I did really love how fast-paced the plot was, that it really did start straight away. There was quite a lot of gore, and I really appreciated that too. It was very unpredictable. Well, I say unpredictable. There were, I think one of your questions was, what did you think of the twist? And I was like, that was a twist. But hang on, there was at the very end. There was the very end. But like, I wasn't like really sure of the genre, and it was kind of more of a learning experience as I was reading each chapter. I was like, oh yeah, like this is kind of just a ride that I have to just be okay with being on. And yeah, there's loads of things I enjoyed about it, but yeah, the positives definitely outweigh the negatives.
Wow, 4 stars. So exciting.
Finally.
Finally. All right, Steph, how did you feel about it?
I gave this one 5 stars.
Oh, wow. How exciting.
Amazing. Yeah, it was. I loved the writing style, and like Gav said from page 1, it just, the pace was going and going and going, and I don't think it slowed down. I think there was a little bit at the end towards the twist. I was like, where is this story going to go? And I was worried because I was like, this could go one of two ways for me. It could knock a star off, it could add a star on. But the end, I just loved how it ended, and then the author's note at the end as well, like really bumped it up for me as well. I love that author's note at the end, and it makes me want to immediately pick more up from him. So yeah, just really loved the whole thing. And it was just non-stop. It was like pow, pow, pow. And I read a lot audibly. I tend to avoid books that don't have audiobooks. And in the UK, we haven't got one yet. It doesn't come out till July.
Oh shit, I'm so sorry. I did not realize that.
Yeah,
No,
how
it's
dare
fine.
you?
Oh my god.
What it's done is force me to read this, and what it does is makes me excited to continue picking up more from him, because we don't have audiobooks for anything else from him either. So yeah, it's made me actually really sit down and properly focus on this, and force me to go through it. Like, I've written all kinds of crap in here, so yeah, I've like really thoroughly annotated it. So yeah, it's made me appreciate it a whole lot more, I think, and I just had the best time reading it. So yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I think for myself, this was also a 5-star for me. I loved this book so much. I have loved a book from Nat Cassidy before. Nestlings was like one of my top favorite books of the year that I read it. So like I kind of was hoping that I would feel the same about this book, and I really did. Like, I loved this so much, and I agree that it was action packed from the first page. It just hooks you in, and then I love that this story, it was a constant like thing of like, where is this going, and like what is happening in this book. And I found it to be just very unpredictable, which I thought was really fun, because I feel like nowadays in horror, it's so hard to find books like this that are unpredictable almost the entire time. I'm just like, where could this be going? And I really did connect to Jess as a character, with how she was feeling about things. And yeah, and then the afterword made me cry at the end. So there's that. But yeah, that's so exciting. I'm so glad to hear that so many people, I just clicked on so many people that said 5 stars. So that's amazing. I'm so happy that this one was very well received. And that makes me happy to know that a lot of people read it for the book club. So that's very cool. Following that up with, because I know we just mentioned, have you read any of Nat Cassidy's other books? I think neither of you have, or?
No, I have Nestlings. I bought this, I think, only last month or the month before. And yeah, I was like, should I? Because I could have quickly read this before When the Wolf Comes Home, but I wanted this to be my first Nat Cassidy.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to see if it being in like a book club setting, if I wasn't a big fan of it, I wanted to see why people would have been. Obviously, it's good that I was a fan of it, because it means that I feel better about having Nestlings. But yeah, I wanted to see if there was like anything specifically with Nat Cassidy that I need to like look out for, like writing style wise, like is like a recurring theme. And actually, yeah, reading the author note at the end when it said something about like, oh, this kind of feels a little bit like a trilogy, because like he also tackled something personal in, is the first one Mary? Like, or obviously it's not a trilogy, but like the first book was Mary. And then Nestlings, like it was like a trifecta of like personal stuff being brought into the story. So I feel like that was a really cool thing to learn about, because it's made me a bit more excited to read Nestlings, because I love the personal touches with like, yeah, the themes of like fatherhood and what like parents like imbue to us, and the things that we pick up from them, the things that we're scared by, or like the things that we love. It's like so much like indication of like how we're brought up and the parents that we have. So yeah, I'm very excited to continue, but I haven't read a single other Nat Cassidy yet. Not yet.
It's exciting.
Yeah, same for me. I've got Mary on my shelves, and I've had it for probably since the beginning of the year. But again, no audiobooks. I've been avoiding it like the plague. But this has encouraged me for sure to want to pick that up. And same, I want to try and get a copy of Nestlings, which for some reason in the UK, it's really, other than this, it's really difficult to get hold of any of Nat Cassidy books. Yeah.
No, I agree. This I got from Forbidden Planet, but it's like it's an American like paperback. So like this was probably imported. And then Forbidden Planet sometimes sell imported books. But yeah, this is like any Nat Cassidy books aren't really very easy to get hold of in the UK. You have to buy them.
So
Mary was the same. I had to get it off Sci-Fi.
What the heck? Well, thank you then for joining. I had no idea it would be so difficult. I apologize.
Fortunately, When the Wolf Comes Home is like the first like Nat Cassidy, I think, to like really be brought to the UK and actually be sold in bookshops and stuff. So
wow, that's wild. Yeah, I think Mayana, his books would be perfect to read for Summerween. Highly would recommend that. Yeah, I've read everything from Nat Cassidy so far. He has 3 full-length novels, and then he does have a novella that just came out recently called Rest Stop. Rest Stop is the only one that I wasn't a big fan of. I gave that book 2 stars. It just, I liked the beginning of it, but then the twist, I was not into it. So it kind of ruined it for me. But I enjoyed Mary. I think I gave Mary like 3 or 3.5 stars. I think my biggest thing with that one was that it felt a little bit too long for me, but I really liked the concept in that one, and I liked that he was writing about, because like Mary, if you didn't know, it's basically like inspired by Carrie by Stephen King, and it's kind of like imagining like a woman going through menopause as opposed to like getting her period. So it's like an older woman, and it's Mary instead of Carrie. So that's kind of what that book is inspired by, which is why that one was also really personal to him, because it was kind of like inspired by his mother in a way, you know, whereas like this one was more like inspired by his father kind of thing. So like I can see how all these books are connected for him. But Nestlings was like, I think Nestlings might still be my top favorite from him. I just loved the vibes of that one. That one has like New York City creepy apartment kind of vibes, and like I just loved it so much. It was exactly my niche kind of thing that I like in a book. But yeah, I've really liked so many things from Nat Cassidy so far, and I can't wait to see what else he's going to be coming out with. But yeah. Okay. And then let's see. I don't know if I can ask anything else before getting into spoilers. So let's go ahead and just jump into spoilers, because I feel like we're going to have a lot to talk about with this one, and I don't want to risk anybody getting spoiled. So
Jan needs to. Jan, love you. Love you so much.
Hi. Sorry,
love
Jan.
you so much. But you gotta
Sorry, Jan. Gotta bounce, Jan. I love you so much. But yeah, so okay, jumping into some spoilers. So I guess my first question with jumping into spoilers was, you know, how did you feel? Okay, because in my opinion, the first twist of this book happens fairly early on. I think it's the first thing. It's like only, I want to say like 100-ish pages in. But the first twist, in my opinion, is when we find out that this little boy has some abilities. You know, like I thought that was the first twist, because I think for a while you're kind of thinking like, what is going on? Because like there's like a moment where he says like, oh, I've never seen a TV before. And you're like, oh, like, okay, that's kind of strange. And then he says like, just tells the little boy that she's famous or whatever, and then she goes to like this clinic, and then everybody's trying to get a picture with her, and she's like, what the heck, she's not actually famous, and like not really. And so you're kind of like, what is going on? And like, so did you like that first initial twist of like learning about the little boy, or like what did you think was going on in those scenes? I would love to know.
I feel like I might have predicted a little bit earlier. I think around about page 50, because it was when he says daddy doesn't allow decoration of any sort, not even drawings. And like his visceral reaction to this fairy tale book as well, with like these scary drawings as well, I was like, I wonder if maybe, especially since he was already liking his dad to be in like a wolf type kind of, like he was snarling and he had drool coming out of his mouth or whatever, and he was like being really angry and stuff. So I was like, I wonder if maybe like he is able to bring things out of like a fairy tale book or something, like if maybe he can bring the wolf out of the book. So I wasn't sure if the dad was the wolf just yet or anything, or like if he actually had powers of any sort. But I was like, okay, why is the dad preventing him from like these books with pictures? Oh, maybe it's because he can bring them to life. So that's why I thought. So I wasn't like, it did still take me by surprise, like, because as soon as Jess was like, why is everyone noticing I'm a celebrity? As soon as that happened, I was like, oh, okay. Like, that's actually totally different than what I was expecting, actually, because like he's just like changed reality. Like that seems to be his gift. Like it isn't just making things that he's scared of come true or anything like that, but he can actually change reality. And that was pretty shocking. But I loved it when she was in the clinic and everyone was like, can I get a photo? And she ended up being like, fuck off. And stuff like that. It was kind of funny, but also, this was when I was like, oh, this is the turning point in the story, because this is probably more than a horror. It feels maybe a little bit well, I don't even know how to kind of like sci-fi-ish.
I know. I don't know what genre it would fall into with that. I don't know.
Yeah, but it was strange. But yeah, no, it was a good kind of thing. But there were the breadcrumbs before that, which I appreciated, like for the writer to give us. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully Steph loved the twist as well.
Yeah, I similar to you, Gav. I picked it up a little bit earlier, but I don't think as early as you did. So I picked it up. I made a note of it. Where did I pick it up? It was around when they went to Margie's house. And she gave him the blanket, and she was like, this is an invisibility blanket. And then obviously everything went down, with the wolf. And I was like, and then the kid got out of the house, and I was like, hang on a minute, he's the blank. No, surely not.
Yeah.
What in the invisibility blanket is going on here? It was at that point that I picked up on it, and then I was like, maybe not. Like, is this some manifestation thing? What's going on? And then the Jess being famous thing, and I was like, no, this kid has definitely got some powers. But I figured that Dad was probably the wolf before I even picked this up. I figured that was probably the thing. This just went in a completely different direction than I thought it was going to very quickly, when the wolf was then suddenly described as something that was not very wolf-like. And I was like, what?
Oh, yeah. With the faces. Like, when all the faces came out and stuff, and it was like, oh.
And the lips, it was like very more spider-like and too many eyes. And I was like, wait, what? And then everything that happens in the synopsis had already happened, and I was like, hang on, we're 50 odd pages in. Where do we go from here? But no, yeah, love the writing style, love the plot twist. I thought they were very, very good. I didn't see them coming at all, but I did see like the kid having the powers and stuff pretty quickly with the whole Margie and the invisibility blanket.
Yeah. I was so like, my first thought was like, when she got like pricked by the needle thing in the toilet, I was like, did she just get like launched into like an alternate dimension where she's like a celebrity now or something? Because I don't know, after she got pricked by the needle, it was like the writing got so weird. Like, I don't know if you remember that part, but it was like she was like losing time, or it was like something weird was happening right after that. And I know it's probably just because she was like delirious from what just happened or something, but I thought the writing was so strange in that section that I was like, did something just happen to her that like changed her own reality or something? Like, I was so confused.
Yeah, I know, I agree, because especially with the also bringing in the like the fairy tale aspect of it, like Sleeping Beauty pricking her finger kind of thing. I thought maybe it would be like some kind of hallucination, some kind of dreamlike state and stuff like that. So it was very odd, but it was a great technique of writing, because it was making me question reality too, like the fact that we have this boy who was able to shift reality and change reality, to also have this writing style where like you kind of have to question, is it real, is it not real, is this a fairy tale, is this a dream kind of so no, I as soon as that, also Jess had the worst luck, like the fact that she went in this toilet, pricked her finger, and like I was like, come on, like I felt so bad for her straight away, but also a little bit annoyed because she kept leaving things. Like first she left her phone in the thing, and then after the wolf attack, she leaves her car keys in the actual apartment after her roommate's just been eaten by the wolf. And I'm just like, this girl needs to remember to bloody breathe.
I mean, she's dealing with a small child and she's on the run and there's a werewolf, so she's like not, and she got pricked,
It's never stopped me before. And I've been pricked in a bathroom. I've been pricked in a bathroom and I didn't forget myself.
I think the reality of that for me was around page 53. The Jess and the kid have just got to Margie's. I literally made a note of this. I thought it was equally funny, but also like very reality inducing. And Margie says to her, I mean, what the fuck, Jess? I just saw you like 3 hours ago. And I was sat there thinking, right? This girl has gone through so much. Like, she's a child, she's been pricked with the finger, like her entire apartment has been pulled apart by this wolf spider thing. And I was like, fair.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to ask, how did you feel about like Jess as a character? Like, did you like getting her perspective? Did you find her to be relatable, or was she like frustrating for you to read about? Because I think for myself, I really liked reading from Jess's perspective, but I do think the whole like inner Jess and outer Jess kind of thing got a little bit annoying to me with the writing. Like, I just kind of wish it wasn't written in that way. But I did mostly like really connect to her as a character. Like, I connected to her like I liked her story about like her and her complicated relationship with her own father and how that kind of like tied into her perspective on this whole situation. And I really did like how I felt like she was very real in the way that she would think like, oh, if I just ditch this kid, like all my problems are gone, because I feel like that's very brutal, but also like very realistic. And I do think it would cross your mind if you were in this situation. Like, I like that she was real and honest about those thoughts. So how did you feel about her as a character?
Yeah, I ended up really liking her. Well, actually, I would probably say by the halfway point, I was like, yeah, I really like her. Because at the start, I was thinking maybe she was not exactly annoying, because like genuinely what she was going through, I couldn't help but sympathize. Yeah. But I was like, okay, I feel like sympathy is the only thing that I can offer this character at the minute. Like, I'm not really sure if I like her personality or anything like that, because it was all very like she unburdened a lot on us as the reader. Like there was like a lot of unburdening, like a lot of her daddy issues, the stuff that she was going through with her career, and stuff like that. I was like, I feel so awful for her, like the shit she went through with that previous restaurant as well, and she didn't let that man, you know, sexually assault her. She actually, like, I think she spat in his face or something. I was like, you absolutely, you rock, like genuinely, that's amazing. But I was feeling like this girl, like, genuinely been through so much, and I don't know if maybe I'm just gonna feel sorry for her or actually like her personality by the end. But fortunately, because like she starts off the book with saying, "Oh, I hate kids" and all this and the other, I feel like she has such a great character arc, because by the midway point, I think it was like she's already been attacked a good couple of times, and she was like already been through so much, but she actually says, "I'm not going to abandon this kid." Like by like age maybe 150 or something, she's like, "I'm not going to abandon this kid," and I was like, "Damn!" Like I really respect the hell out of her for sticking to doing something so moralistic, but also kind of trying not to follow in her father's footsteps, by being somebody who just abandons someone. Even though we do find out a little bit more complications when it comes to her dad and like the reasons why he left and stuff, I do think the more this story went on, the more I really did like her. And honestly, she had the patience of a saint. Have you ever seen the Babadook? Have you seen the Babadook?
Yes.
That kid freaking out in the car, and it was just like, it was reminding me of that, you know, when the 5-year-old boy, she leaves the fairy tale book in the blanket at Margie's house, and the kid is screaming and he's like kicking her seat and stuff like that. I would have thrown him out. I would have put him in the side, right? Yeah, right, okay, you do you. But no, she had the patience of a saint. So no, I really do feel like I ended up coming to really like her by the end and really admiring her actions.
Yeah, same. I think I related to Jess in the sense of the anxiety. She's clearly got very severe anxiety, and I related to her in that sense. I do get what you're saying, Gabby, about the inner and outer Jess. Like, I kind of was losing my patience with that a little bit, but I also kind of understand it as somebody with anxiety, because my head will trick me into thinking that something is a big issue when it's clearly not. And then on occasion, I can manage to bring myself down out of the spiral and be like, no, listen, that's irrational. And so I kind of got it in that sense. But again, I completely agree with Gav. Her character arc was so insane. Like from the beginning, she was like, I don't think I ever want kids. Like, it's just not for me. I'm not a fan of kids. And then for her to be able to see what this kid is going through and be like, no, you know what, this isn't right, and you need some help. And just take the kid and essentially kidnap this child and be like, there is something severely, you know, going on with this kid. Like, there's something more than, I can't just drop the kid off at the police. I don't know who to trust. So she just goes to extreme lengths to keep this child protected, despite everything that's gone on. And I don't know, I just think it's an amazing POV to have, to be fair. And I'm glad that we got, for the most part, her POV with, you know, the others sprinkled in as well, which I think was really nice as well. A nice touch.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say there was like maybe a chapter or two or a few more that were like from the werewolf's perspective, or at least like the dad's perspective as he was like shifting or hunting the son, which I thought were kind of fun. Like, I thought that they would be cheesy, but I actually thought they were written in a way that was like really eerie, kind of, and like creepy, and like the way that he would be like, I can smell him, and like I'm picking, you know, like, I don't know. I thought those chapters were really cool. Did you want more of those?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, because like it helped to see his trajectory into, because I feel like it would have been a little bit unbelievable to just have this wolf. Oh, he just randomly knows where Cookie lives. He just randomly knows where she's going. Like all this and the other would have been a little bit too random if we didn't see his side of it. But because we do actually see like his thought process and like the way he kind of goes about his own way of looking at things. Same with Santos, I think his name was Santos. Like we do get like an explanation of like how they're finding, I was about to say Nat, but how they're finding Jess and the kid and how they're keeping tabs on them and all of that. So I feel like I would have enjoyed maybe a couple more from the dad's perspective, maybe before we find out that he's definitely been turning into the wolf. I guess maybe just to, although actually that probably would have been a bad thing, because I feel like one of the things about this book is portraying the dad as like the evil, the big evil, and he's been really like abusing this kid, or like there's a reason why he's so scared of him. I don't think he actually ever did abuse his child. It was just the fact that he was keeping him so way too protected, I think, like
Yeah.
overprotected. So it, like, to the kid, like, it obviously scared him, and he obviously had a temper and stuff. But yeah, I feel like maybe if we did get before that, I'm just talking myself out of it. Like, if we'd got it before that, probably would have been too much sympathy towards him if we
Right.
got why he's like being overprotective. So I get that. But yeah, no, I enjoyed some of Santos's one, especially when it gets unmade. Yeah, good,
Yeah.
good all around. Good POVs. Good POVs.
I feel like the extra POVs actually, like, even because the first chapter I think is actually from the kid's POV. And then I think we get the kid a little bit later on again, like 1 or 2 more chapters. And then we do get a chapter or 2 from Cookie. We get, like you say, the agent, and then we get the dad as well. And then for the most part, it's Jess. But I enjoyed the other chapters. It made it come to life in my head. It almost felt like a movie. You know, like sometimes you're not following the main character anymore. And so you're following a couple of different characters. It's part of the side story, but it's important. And it's, I don't know, it kind of made it feel like a movie. We're getting some of the bits that we don't necessarily see if we were just following Jess the whole time. And like you say, it makes it feel more believable. It makes it, you know, you're getting the reports of the news of what happened with everything, and they're covering it up and all of that stuff. And I don't know, otherwise I would have probably thought that the whole thing was just Jess having a hallucination the whole time.
Yeah, I know. And I wanted to talk about some of the like death scenes in this book because well, the one I wanted to mention too was like when Jess's mom Cookie died. I was so sad because Cookie was such a great character, you know, and I love that Cookie was like so smart. Like she was actually looking out for Jess, like, because when that guy came up and he was like, oh, I'm a producer from Paramount or whatever, and at first I thought she was buying it, and I was like, no, like, Cookie, no. And then immediately she's like, Jess, it's off, like, you're not coming here, whatever. And I was like, thank God, like, she's a genius, like nobody's gonna manipulate my queen Cookie, okay? Like so I was happy about that. But then like when that scene happened when Cookie died, that was so upsetting, and it was so sad because it was like they had just finally kind of like started to, you know, reform their relationship. But I think for me the most shocking moment in this whole book was the scene with Santos being zapped from existence. Dude, that was crazy. I had to take a minute to be like, what did I just read?
And it isn't even the fact that he got zapped, it was the fact that his mum was like screaming for the rest of her whole existence as well. Like, that's just awful.
It was so sad because basically if you didn't make it to this point in the book, the little boy, they're like all in a heated argument, and then the little boy says, you didn't exist, you never existed, something like that. And because he believes it to be true or like manifested it, he just like bursts right in front of their eyes. And the way that scene was like described, like it was so vivid and like, oh my God, it was awful to imagine. And then the way the words like faded from the page at the end of the chapter, that was crazy. I was like so shocked. But yeah, but then following that chapter, we had like the saddest perspective of his mom, like Santos's mother, being like, who did I ask to like fix my whatever? And she couldn't even remember her own son existed. That was
devastating. Her throat is like filled with blood and stuff because the amount of screaming. It's like, even when people are restraining her and so she doesn't stop screaming.
Dude,
I was like, that
so sad.
It was quite the reality check of showing exactly how the knock-on effect of the choices that this child makes, like even something so severe as that. Because I think Jess literally was saying to him, like, just get rid of him, pretend like he wasn't here or something. And obviously the kid, he's what, 4 years old, 6 years old, and he, 5. Naturally, it was the one I didn't say. And he just obviously takes that to the extreme, and he's like, you just literally never existed. And, you know, the whole thing, he just goes. The Cookie one, though, I was devastated about that. I had a little prediction about that, actually. And I was like, if, you know, because it was in that moment that we suddenly realized that the kid had been dreaming about his dad, which is why he would change in moments when they weren't together. And it was in that moment then that the kid woke up, and I was like, oh my God, maybe he didn't actually get to Cookie, and maybe Cookie's still alive. And then I was like, in the next chapter, oh, maybe not. And I was like, damn.
Yeah. I just wanted one win, you know, because it felt like, and one of the things I did love about this book is that every single time the wolf came, like no one survived, you know. It's what was that saying thing again that was on the like the graffiti, like no one will live when the wolf comes home or something, like the full graffiti thing. I was just like, I kind of love that because it actually was true. Like every single time, like those poor old people who came to Cookie's bridge night thing. Like, bless them. Everyone at the apartment complex at the start. Margie, and one thing again, I was going to say, like, to begin with as well, another reason why I was getting a bit frustrated with Jess was, like, you're putting so many people into, like, so when she was like, oh, like, this awful thing's just happened, like, I have no idea what to do, I'm going to go to the next person who is, like, the next closest thing to me is a mom, and that's Margie. And then she goes to Margie's, and Margie's is like, you came here? Margie was like, I'm, like, I don't really know you that well, kind of thing. So it's like, I found that a little bit interesting, how Jess thought of Margie more than Margie thought of her in a way. Like, Margie was actually, like, trying to help, but when she was like, we're not actually that close, like, I don't know, I haven't known you that long, kind of thing. It was very interesting that. Yes, thank you. And yeah, when Jess was like, I'm just gonna go there, and then she dies, so I was like, okay, stay the hell away from your mom. Don't even, like, you know what I mean? Like, don't even go anywhere near that. I just don't, because, like, I knew something bad would happen to her. And one thing I think would have been very interesting, actually, I kind of did want to say, was if the boy could have made her mum. I guess we kind of saw that at the very end, after, you know, all is said and done, like, when we see her mum again. But, like, if the boy had have, like, manifested her mum to be alive, like, if he can unmake someone the way he did, like, can he make it so that something never happened at all? Like, so could he have made it that his dad never even went to the house, you know? Like, I feel like, I would have, if I was in Jess's position, I would have said to the boy, like, long before, like, you know, talking to my mum and stuff, it's like, I would have been like, I don't know, it was obviously, like, a lot harder, but to be like, your dad has totally forgotten who you are, like, your dad's totally forgotten you, like, he isn't a thing anymore, like, that's what I would have said to him, because then it would have made him stop. But then we do get to the end, and it's like, yeah, actually the boy is probably, like, really, really dangerous, and the dad's just trying to stop him, kind of thing. Yeah, it's like, but yeah, I feel like we should have protected Cookie at all costs. Like, that was just it was too far.
That is an interesting thought, to, like, try to make the little boy believe that his dad doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know why
like,
my brain didn't go there, but that's a good,
literally, if you could do that as Santos, then just be like, oh, your dad isn't coming after you. He kind of forgot that you existed. So, like, your dad's just, like, pottering around at home, and he's just living his life. But then again, I guess, like, the fear of the father is too deeply rooted in the boy for that to actually happen. I think that's why, like, it was a huge theme of the book, and very important that he was coming after him. But I just feel like if I was in Jess's position, I would have tried to change things up a little bit.
I think like, one of the things for me in this book was, like, towards the end, there was this scene where there was this, like, 20-foot werewolf. They were, like, describing it as, like, a freaking T-Rex out of Jurassic Park, like, coming after them. And I thought, like, leading up to that scene, I thought it was so well done how, like, the little boy started to be afraid of Jess, and how he was saying, oh no, you're, like, after the thing with Santa's happened, she was, like, really afraid of him, I think. And then he was, like, saying, oh, you're just like my dad or whatever. And then he started shape-shifting Jess kind of almost into a werewolf until she's, like, screaming. I thought that was crazy. And then that little boy realizes, like, oh my God, like, I need to be punished because, like, I keep harming people or whatever. So then he basically, like, tells, like, he wants his father to come and find him and take him home or whatever to be punished. And then following that, we get the scene of the fucking 20-foot werewolf coming after them. How did you feel about how the book kind of, like, wrapped up with those scenes? Because, like, in that scene, the dad comes, finds him, and shoots his son. And then we get the moment where Jess is, like, watching this horrified, like, by what she's seeing, because she's like, oh my God, like, he actually had valid reason to be afraid of his dad. Like, he was coming to kill him this whole time. And then Jess decides to, you know, kill the dad in that scene. Like, crazy shit. How did you feel about that? And, like, did you see it going in that direction, or, like, how did you feel about those scenes?
Steph, I'll let you go first.
I didn't predict it going that way, and I was really shocked at the time. But I think, going back to something Gav just said then about why didn't Jess just have him, like, just pretend that his dad was at home or whatever, I think, like you said, it was deeply rooted, the fear of his dad, but also it was deeply rooted that, like, obviously in the end, the kid just loves his dad, and I think he suddenly realized what his dad was trying to do, and he got it. But I think, you know, there's just no way he could have forgotten his dad. And I think, regardless of what he would have done about his dad, the kid is dangerous at the end of the day. That is the main point of the whole thing. I think what his dad did, it shocked me. I wasn't expecting it. And shooting his own kid. But I was like, what else do you do with him? What do you do with him? Because Jess has done everything she possibly can. Like, the kid was much happier. He was, well, we thought that he was making more happier things happen, you know. As it turned out, that might not have been the case. But it's just the little things, like you can't even take him to the supermarket. He was panicked on the Halloween aisle and it was disastrous. So what do you do with him? You either take him to the FBI and they turn him into a weapon, which is what they would have done, because, you know, power struggles and whatnot. But what do you do with him? And I was like, you know what, it's probably the only thing as horrible as it is, it's probably the only thing you can do. And then obviously Dad swiftly followed. So yeah, I didn't predict it, but I honestly sat there for ages racking my brains. I was like, what else do you do?
I was like, at the hands of his own father, though. Like, damn, you know, like, geez.
It's such a desolate, you know, situation, and I totally agree with Steph. Also, Steph, I love the fact that you brought up the Halloween thing, and you're wearing Ghostface, because Ghostface was actually mentioned in this book as well, and I was like, oh, Steph, you are on point tonight. And yeah, so I totally agree. Like, what do you do? It's a thing that I mentioned earlier about, like, oh, sometimes I feel like it was like a lack of logic sometimes. What I don't understand is how this boy got out in the first place with his dad. Like, if this was like a very top secret operation, they were under like observation and things, there is no way, unless the dad like manipulated the boy to be like, oh, like, it's an easy way out and like obviously nobody can see us. But I feel like maybe the boy would have been a little bit too young to be that specific, because if they had have escaped and they could not have found them for years and years and years, I was like, okay, I don't understand how the dad could get their child out of like such a lockdown place and all of that. So I was like, I don't quite like fully get that or believe that. But I do think, because I didn't see the dad doing what he did, I thought maybe he would, like, he kind of had a way of keeping his child safe at his house. Maybe, I mean, it wasn't like the best. Obviously, we saw the very start, like, how much the kid lacked so much. Like, he didn't have companionship. He had never seen a TV, and he was very cute when he was like, oh, what's famous and things like that. Like, he was so very cute and innocent and unaware. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But if he wanted to keep his child alive, he would have had to have gone back to that. So maybe there was like something that clicked in his brain, like, we can't go back to that. That isn't living. And so I feel like when Jess said after she shot the dad, she thought she saw a grateful look on his face or something like that. She thought she did. She wasn't quite sure. I think that was the moment I was like, yeah, this was probably the only way the story could have ended. Like, the only way it could have wrapped up. And yeah, like, I really liked the way it happened, but like, it was the twist at the very end that he passed on the gift kind of thing to Jess. That is something that I genuinely did not expect, like, at all. And like, I feel like the signs were there as well. Like, I thought I was reading it like in between the lines and everything. I thought I was analyzing. I thought I was doing all of that. I clearly wasn't. And yeah, I freaking love it. Ash and Toby were fine. Stop it. And I thought it was a great ending. And also going back to your point as well, Gabby, about the changing Jess and like the way that he was changing her to be like a werewolf, and you could feel it, you could feel the pain. Becoming a werewolf never sounds like something you'd ever want to do. Like, every single kind of like media where a werewolf is portrayed, it looks painful. It looks so painful. So it's like one of the worst. I think, like, when you think of mythical creatures, I never ever would want to be a werewolf. Like, that is just not for me. Not for me at all.
Yeah, I feel like the overall like tone of this book was just so sad from like beginning to end, because it's like, when you find out like, oh, this whole thing was like Project Albatross, like this guy never wanted any of this, you know, like he volunteered himself for like these medical experiments or whatever. The experiments went wrong. He was able to have a kid even though he wasn't supposed to be able to. So it's like this whole situation could have been prevented, you know, but it's like, it's sad that like none of these people asked for this, and like the kid never asked to be, you know, like a danger to people. And like, I think that's what makes the tone of the book just feels so sad. But yeah, like Gavin was saying, one of the final twists in the book that was crazy, I did not see that coming, is when Jess is like realizing that she might have the abilities of the kid at the end, because she had said to him, like, we are the same, me and you are the same right before, and then he had believed that to be true. So then I feel like this book kind of ends though with like an ambiguous kind of vibe. Like I feel like there's some uncertainty with like what exactly was happening at the very end. And I wanted to know if you had any thoughts about like what you think was going on, because she like opens the email and she sees that she's like positive for whatever, like the needle prick thing that happened at the very beginning. Like that kind of comes back at the end because she wasn't able to get it cleared out in time because she was like taking care of this kid, for like over 48 hours. So she reads that it's positive in the email, but she can't even finish reading the email because she's freaking out so much with anxiety about it, which like fair, that's crazy. But then she starts to realize, like, is it that I think it's like she closes her eyes and is able to like transport herself somewhere else, and that's when she realizes she might have the abilities of the kid. And then it just kind of ends on this like kind of ambiguous, like weird note about like maybe she's in another world, or like I don't know. I thought the ending was a little bit like, whoa, what? I felt like I had to reread it again to like fully grasp what I was just reading. But how did you feel about that? Like the way the book concluded there?
I think it kind of ties back to the book that Santos mentioned by Ursula K. Le Guin, when he talked about the fact that when somebody wanted world peace, aliens took over, or things like this. Like I've never read the book or anything, but at the very end, when she's like kind of doing her improv, or she's on a stage and she's like, the audience is silent now, the house has been cleared, or is that the entire world emptied or raised, simplified? Because I feel like there's like this hope at the end that she can make change with this gift. Like there's a little bit of like, I don't know if it could also be like a little bit delusional, and there's like many different ways that you could tie delusions to it, but I feel like maybe she did want to eradicate fear, and the only way to eradicate fear unknowingly is to eradicate everyone. So I don't know if maybe like if that's a really bleak ending or not, if she was given her performance on this stage maybe in her mind, but I think maybe it was real. I would hate it if it was just a dream or just in her mind.
Dude,
if we want to tie it back to the
I never thought of that. Like maybe she wasn't actually even positive, but she just
Yeah.
manifested that to be. What?
Can you trust anything that happened in that final chapter? Like, can you actually trust it?
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is actually interesting as well, because like sometimes I'm sure it was mentioned, I don't know the exact quote, but like sometimes I think even Jess said this herself to the boy, but like sometimes people make themselves fearful of something because they believe it to be so. And sometimes it happens, like sometimes you can like make yourself so sick. And Steph mentioned this before, like regarding anxiety. It's like these kinds of things, they can become true if we believe it to be true. And I feel like with so much belief in her at the end, that maybe she did kill everyone.
That's so crazy. Oh, that's crazy when you think of it like that.
Yeah, it's great. I do love ambiguous endings sometimes.
You can make up your own ending, can't you, essentially?
Yeah.
But anxiety it can manifest into like a physical illness. So again, I hadn't thought about the fact that maybe she'd got the positive reading because she just believed that the whole way through.
I didn't think that
she convinced herself it could be negative, not a single point.
No, always kind of assumed the worst. And again, that was that fear and anxiety to it, because sometimes it's easier to maybe believe that, so that if it does come back negative, like you've cushioned the blow. Like sometimes it's easier to expect the worst and be like happy that it's not, if it turns out to be that way, kind of thing, like cushioning the blow almost.
Well, I think this book too, it did such a great job, I thought, of like describing how your fears from childhood manifest into these anxieties, and then like different kinds of fear as an adult, but like they don't just go away, they just kind of like change form. And like the way that he would describe like fear as being this like shape-shifting thing in adults, like just all the way that was written with like the metaphor of like the shape-shifting thing, I thought was so well done. And like, yeah, I guess I didn't think about how like, yeah, the ending could be like trying to show us that Jess's anxiety was ultimately like her downfall at the end. Like that's crazy, and that's even more sad. It's just like added to the sad at the end of this book. Like, wow. That's crazy. Wow. I'm glad I asked, because I was like, I feel like there was so much more from that ending that I felt like was going over my head a little bit, and now I feel like I have even more like closure and understanding of the ending.
Yeah, no, I would totally believe. Like, what did you interpret the ending, Gabby? Because like I would totally believe anyone saying anything about it.
Well, honestly, I was just like, oh, so like she has the abilities of the boy now, and then I just thought like because she was positive on the test, I thought that she believed it would kill her or something, and then the ending was like her like dying essentially because she believed that she would or something like that. But mine was not nearly as deep as what we just talked about. Like that makes a lot more sense actually. Okay. So then let's see. So one of my final questions. Well, did you have anything more specific about the plot that I didn't get to touch on? Like anything you liked or disliked that I didn't hit yet that you wanted to mention?
Something I forgot about that really shocked me as well was pretty much near the start when she goes back into the apartment after her, to get a case, and she's like, her roommate's dead and everything. When she shoots the policeman, like she accidentally she shoots him, I was like, I cannot believe you just did that. Like, I was totally floored by that, but also it did, like, because you do think, oh, you have this random child, he's lost. So the easiest thing would be to take this child to a police station and drop him off and stuff like that. But I love the fact that Nat Cassidy was like, you think it's that easy? You think she's just killed a cop? Well, didn't kill. Like he's fine. I think Sandor said he would make it through, but still, she shot a cop. So like, it wouldn't be that easy for her to just actually go up to a police station and drop off this child. She's now on the run, which is why when she went to that, the clinic, when she turns out to be famous, when when the woman first looks at her and she has like this realization, I thought that Jess was on the news and she was wanted because I thought maybe the FBI are going to pin everything on her. Maybe they're going to say she's a serial killer. She killed this entire apartment block. I didn't think it would go the whole reality kind of thing. So I thought at that moment, this story, there was the part of me that was like, oh, maybe, the boy's bringing things to life. But I thought maybe the wolf would be more of a metaphorical thing with the dad. And I thought maybe it would turn out that everything would be pinned on Jess and she's wanted by the FBI and she's on the run and she's brought this kid with her. And I thought, oh, maybe at the end, the twist would be that she is a serial killer and she did want to kidnap this child and she is on the run. That's what I thought the twist would be when it got to like around about that part. But then as soon as it was like, oh yeah, I want your autograph, I love you in this, this, and this, I was like, okay, like it's obviously not going to go that route anymore. But I did really love.
I mean, that would have been cool. I like that idea. Cool. Like finding out Jess is a little bit more sneaky than we thought.
Yeah, like an unreliable kind of narrator thing. Because with the pricking of the finger thing as well, and the kind of trippy writing after that happens and stuff, I thought, oh, maybe we will have this unreliable narrator, and maybe she would be someone who is not that I would know why. Because that road
every time.
Yeah, you just have a very active road, like.
That is so interesting, though. I like that. I also thought it was interesting, like the first time we got the government guy's perspective when he was like, we think that Jess must have kidnapped this kid because she wants to be famous. I was like, oh, like that's interesting because she had no idea what the fuck was going on. But I thought that was an interesting thing.
I wondered for a second with the whole dad thing for her as well, with her dad. I thought for a second that his dad might tie in with this. And I was like, oh my God, is it the same person? Is he actually her dad? And then when it came to light that wasn't the case, I was like, or is he also a monster? This was before I knew the kid was manifesting the monster thing. And I was like, oh, maybe her dad's also been part of this trial and he's also a monster. And then we came to the conclusion that the kid was doing it all. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Maybe this hasn't got anything to do with her dad then, unless he is also her dad. But then we got to the cabin and I was like, oh, nice. And the hat bats thing as well. When they went in and they saw the hats on the ceiling and she immediately panicked. And I was like, what's she panicking for? They're just hats. And then I was like, the kid. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
But the kid wasn't in the garage. That should have been such a red flag, though, for Jess having his abilities, because the kid wasn't in the garage. He was still outside. But they started to flutter a little bit because she'd seen them and thought, shit, this kid's going to think these are bats. Then they started fluttering. And then she was like, okay, let's go back inside, and got the kid back inside. And I was like, later on, I was like, red flag for her having his abilities, because he never saw
it would be cool to like reread, because then you'd probably like notice things like that and be like, oh, it's happening.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
there'll be so much more that comes up now. If on a reread, it'd be so fascinating.
We can all three of us write a fan fiction and write the story in our way, and then like I'll do my Jess was actually the kidnapper all along and she wanted to kidnap him for whatever reason. I'll write that story. And then we'll come back and we'll share our stories for the next book.
We have to. And then I also wanted to ask, did you read the afterword at the end of this? And that was like, because in the afterword, Nat Cassidy talks a lot about how like this book was really inspired by his father, not because his father was like abusive or anything like that, but because his father was kind of like a shapeshifter, like somebody he didn't really feel like he was kind of a stranger to him in his own life. And just the way like the afterword of this book was like 11 pages, like 12 pages, like it was long. And I feel like he really got the chance to like kind of like deep dive talk about the inspiration for this book in a way that was like really beautiful and really touching. And I just really appreciate Nat Cassidy because I feel like he does such a good job at writing these like afterwards that connects like his own personal experiences to like the stories that he's writing. And I just love that. I love that so much. Like I love when an author can get personal and you can see like why they write the things they do, you know, and why it means so much.
Well, that's reassuring actually, because we haven't read any other Nat Cassidy, but to know that we have some afterwards to look forward to, just to bring a little bit more context, and especially since I guess he had to clarify that this wasn't a representation of his own father. Like yes, his father is in this text, but also not at the same time. One, the fact that his dad is called Barry, my dad is called Barry, so we have fathers with the same name. But I felt like it's that kind of like fathers and fathers and fathers, like their father and then their father and stuff. So when he was like, when he asked his dad why he did these careers, it was like he realized it was his last chance to maybe get to understand his father, and why he became a child crimes detective, because I knew I wasn't a good father either. And then knowledge of behavior you can't alter is the heaviest kind of knowledge, isn't it? Because like when you think about things that you can't change in the past, and whether that's like in the rearing of a child, like as a parent, you can't really change how you brought up a child. You know, that's always something that I think, I mean, I'm obviously not a parent, but I can only imagine like how that would weigh on you, depending on like how you're like the immense pressure of a parent and the immense responsibility. And not, it was mentioned a couple of times in this book, not everyone is meant to exactly be a parent, and sometimes the parent is the danger to the child and you have to do what's best for the child and stuff like that. So I love the insight into that as well, because some of that went over my head while reading the actual story, especially with like not exactly vilifying a father, but to try and make them as more multifaceted so that you can maybe understand sometimes why a father does something. And so if a dad decides to like leave your life, and we find out in this book that, you know, Jess's dad put her in danger a couple of times, and he's like, "Oh, I'm the car that's coming to run you over, but I will also push you out of the car," like, or something like that. You know, it's like you really do have to know what's best for the child, and sometimes that might go against what a father or a parent should be. So it's really, honestly, it opened up so many things. So yeah, the afterword I thought was like very well needed and very insightful.
I think that with Jess's dad and her reading those letters and coming to that realization, it was at that point when I first started crying. And then again when dad killed Cade, and I cried then, and then I cried in the afterward, probably for the whole 11 pages, to be fair. But I think it started for me once he was going on about his seasonal affective disorder, and he was diagnosed, and it was the once I named the monster, its power shrank. And I feel that a little bit with, I'm at the moment trying to get an ADHD diagnosis, and a lot of people are like, why do you need it diagnosed? Just go and diagnose. And I'm like, once there's a label on it, I will feel better in myself, and I can also get the help that I need then as well. But it's when it like went on, then continued on with like, oh yeah, your dad went through the same thing at that age. Well, that would have been useful information to have while I was going while I thought I was going actually insane. Genetics, you can run but you can't hide. So true. My dad, I can see it now in my dad 1,000%. My brother's got it. I saw it in my dad's dad now. So like, you know, if just one of them would have been diagnosed might have saved me a whole lot of pain for 35 years. But, you know, these things happen. And then again, Gav, you read the exact quote that I also had like underlined about his dad. Oh, but dad, why child crimes detective? Because I knew I wasn't a good dad myself. That as well. I sobbed. The last 50 pages, man. I just cried.
It was an emotional ending. That's for sure.
I think it was very important as well just to see fathers as just people, because I feel like that definitely came up in the actual story too, when Jess was trying to convince the boy that the dad, he's just human as well. Like those screams, like he also gets scared. He's also scared, and so there's a good way of humanizing the father, and you don't have to be so scared, kind of thing. But then, of course, there's like conflicted emotion by Jess. Was like, oh, I told him not to be scared of his dad, and then his dad killed him, kind of thing. Like, obviously, that's like a conflicting kind of message there. But I think the heart of that message kind of remains the same. Like, I feel like for the reader, you don't really have to be like, fathers are just people too, and it's very deep. It's probably one of like the deepest books I've read so far this year.
Oh, I actually didn't realize this, Justin. For anybody who listened to the audiobook, I thought it was really cool because when the letters came up, it would switch into like a male voice narrator like halfway through the letter. It'd be really cool because like she would be narrating it and then it would layer a male voice on top of hers and then it would go into a male's voice. And I was thinking like, who is this guy narrating the letters? But that's so cool. I didn't know Nat Cassidy was the one to narrate the letters. I feel like that makes it even more special. So like that's really cool to know.
I think if I reread this, I'll wait till the audiobook comes out.
Yeah, the audiobook was really good.
Yeah,
I loved it. I'm so shocked. Like, I don't understand why audiobooks aren't available like to everyone at the same time. Like, it's an audiobook. Like, what's the?
It's not just that. Ours could be completely different to yours as well. The amount of times, like Paul Tremblay's recent book last year, I was so excited because I was like, oh my God, everyone's been banging on about this audiobook. Like it's got multiple narrators and it's really well done, really well produced. I got to the audiobook and I was like, what the hell is this crap? It was just one narrator. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind an audiobook that's narrated by one narrator, but I've been promised a full cast, fully produced audiobook. And I was like, when the whole book relies on a fully produced audiobook as well, like you've got to deliver with everybody. You can't just deliver to certain countries and not others. Like,
that's weird. I didn't know there were different audiobooks for different countries. That's wild. Okay, one of my last questions was like, if you had to compare this book to any like movie or other book or like TV show, is there anything that you would recommend as like, if you were a fan of this, maybe you would enjoy this, or like, did it remind you of anything?
I'm only going to be able to recommend like 2 Stephen King books. And even then, I don't think the first book is a recommendation because I only gave this book 2 stars, but Firestarter is about a dad and a child, and the dad is trying to protect the child because the child has powers. So I could say, you can see that, but I only give this 2 stars. This one is more like if When the Wolf Comes Home was more set in the military compound kind of thing. Like they've been like, say if the boy had been captured in this and we spent the rest of the book in the military compound, that would be Firestarter kind of thing. And then for like I would say like for the theme of overcoming fear and trying to face your fears, It by Stephen King I feel like is a good one for like facing your fears and learning like how to overcome them and stuff like that. So those are like the only 2. Because I was watching your exclusive vlog, Gabby, on Patreon for When the Wolf Comes Home, and you mentioned this is quite a unique story. Like it's very hard to kind of recommend things that are similar to it because it is quite unique, and I haven't read anything quite like it.
It has like vibes of other things, but like to actually try to compare this to another story is pretty difficult.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't have anything come to mind. I was like, I don't think I've ever read or watched anything like this before. I completely went into this thinking that the whole plot of the story would be Jess trying to keep this kid alive and away from an abusive father that for some reason is a werewolf. That's what I thought the plot of the story was going to be. So when we got the entire synopsis in like the first 30 pages, and I was like, leave the hell on, what is going on here? I thought I'd lost the plot. I was like, have I completely got this wrong? I reread the synopsis like 4 times, and I was like, okay, we've just by Nat Cassidy. He's given us
Yeah.
those 30 pages and that's it. And I was like, okay, this book is completely insane, but I just loved it. I thought it was fantastic. There was no, I just don't know how to compare it to something else and be like, okay, if you love this, read this, you know. Maybe again on the side of Stephen King, not the same at all, but with kids having powers and there being parents involved, The Shining maybe, but I don't know. They're both still very different books though, because the kid, I don't know if I can't remember if Dad has any idea that Danny has powers. Does he? Oh no, maybe he does. He takes him to a doctor.
I
don't know. I
can't
can't remember.
off the top of my head.
I'll remember.
But the only thing I remember from that book is that the kid's called Danny, and I don't know why it's the only thing I can remember. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars, but you know.
I do think though it definitely had some like Stephen King vibes to it, so I can definitely see like the Stephen King comparisons. I agree with Casey. I was gonna say it kind of reminded me of Incidents Around the House, just in the way that it's like it's from a child's perspective at times. I mean, this one's definitely more like from the perspective of the young girl. Like the whole book's told from her perspective, but it kind of had similarities with the thing of like maybe being afraid of your own parent and kind of like struggling with those feelings. I could definitely see some similarities there. Also with like some of the way that the horror was described in When the Wolf Comes Home kind of reminded me of this one. And I also love this. This was 5 stars for me as well. One of my favorite horror books. And then it also kind of did have some Stranger Things vibes. I know some people were talking about the Stranger Things kind of feel to it earlier. I could definitely see the Twilight Zone kind of comparison here, which is interesting. I don't know what this is. The Lathe of.
I think that might be the Ursula K. Le Guin book. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think. I totally forgot the title of the book as soon as it. Because the only Ursula K. Le Guin books I know is the Earthsea books and the Left-Hand of Darkness. I think. So I totally forgot the other one.
Yeah, Mayana, I would agree with that too. Like maybe Grady Hendrix, he kind of has like a similar style sometimes with his horror. I also think Daphne would be a good recommendation too.
Oh, I haven't read. Yeah, Grady Hendrix.
Yeah, I think Daphne was a good recommendation because Daphne also kind of explores like fear and anxiety and like growing up and like those kinds of themes. So those are perfect. Okay, well, I think that just about wraps up this live show. How crazy is that? Thank you so much to everybody for reading along with this month and joining us. Thank you to Gavin and Steph for joining me. It's always so nice to get to chat about books and like how great that we all enjoyed this one. It was just a really lovely time getting to talk about it.
It's great, but at the same time, I'm like, damn, I wish one of us hated it.
You're like, I wish we could roast just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. If you missed it, next month for the book troop, we're going to be reading Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Huang, which this is definitely one of my most anticipated. I've heard that this one is a little bit horror sci-fi potentially kind of vibe too. So very curious to this one. And then in July, we're going to be reading the new Riley Sager with a Vengeance. So not to traumatize He's like, so it should be an exciting summer over here. Yeah, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you have a good rest of your Saturday. Yeah, thank you.